Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon and Ascendant for the month of September. I hope you're all well. I'm sorry there were no mid-month readings for August. I did put up a post on the community tab on YouTube, but I know not all of you saw it. I took a well overdue break with my children. I'd worked pretty much relentlessly through the lockdown and I didn't get to see my kids that much, really. Between personal readings and the stuff that I was doing for YouTube and Vimeo, my days were very long and I didn't get to see my kids that much, so I scarpered to the Mediterranean for 2 weeks with them to just decompress a little bit. I think it was necessary, so I'm sorry if you didn't get the message, but I am back now and the mid-months are also back on. So let's get you some cards, Sagittarius, and see what's going on with you for September. 2 cards for Sagittarius, please. Oh, there's the first one. Oh, let's see what it is. We've got the 7 of Swords in your recent past. Already I'm thinking back to the last video that I did for you at the beginning of August, and I have a vague recollection of what was contained in there, so we'll come back to that anyway. 2 more cards for Sagittarius, please. Oh shit. We've got 2 together, and they are the High Priestess with the King of Cups. Okay. And 1 more card for Sagittarius. Ooh, that one flew out fast. We've got the 4 of Pentacles. That's interesting. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the Magician. Wow. What an incredible card. Take a look at that. Awesome. And it's followed by the King of Swords, the 9 of Swords and the Chariot. We'll come back to that, because I feel like it's more likely than not going to be relevant, so let's just get some clarifiers. Now I'm going to go with the standard rider weight for this. Use that in a few days. Let's give these a good shuffle. Why is the 7 of Swords here for Sagittarius, please? King of Cups, Sagittarius, 7 of Swords. Chariot. Okay, so the 3 clarifiers we've got for the 7 of Swords are the King of Cups, the 6 of Cups, and the Chariot. We have the 7 of Pentacles and the 4 of Swords. That's the clarifiers there. One fell onto the floor there. And for the 4 of Pentacles, please, for Sagittarius, we have the King of Swords again. And the Hermit. Right. At the bottom of the deck, we've got the 3 of Swords with the 2 of Cups and the 9 of Wands. You see them there. The 3 of Swords talks about heartbreak. I mean, it's a pretty visceral card. You don't need to be a tarot reader with 30 years experience to work out what that card means. The 2 of Cups is about a relationship here. So we have some difficult feelings regarding a relationship, and then we've got this 9 of Wands, which is my card of boundaries, and it feels like the first thing that came into my head when I saw this was there being some sorrow about the transgression of boundaries in a relationship here. Now, I don't know whether this relationship is one that you are currently in or you have been in. I know that Sagittarius certainly did some distancing from a previous relationship at the beginning of this year. That was a theme that was coming through quite strongly. But we'll get into it, we'll see. So the reason why I wasn't really that surprised to see the 7 of Swords here was because I can't remember the exact content of the reading that I did for you at the beginning of August, but there was some notion of some stuff coming to light, right? That was going to enable you to move away from an old situation in a more conclusive and definitive way than you had done up until this point, right? There'd been some mitigations that you had made for a situation or for a person or something like that. And there was some stuff that was going to come to light, and it was going to show you where perhaps you'd been manipulated or there'd been some shoddy behavior by somebody else, and it was enough to make you really properly take that step. Now, the Seven of Swords is a card of deceit, right? Now, often I don't go directly to deception as the standard meaning for this card, because for me it can also talk about taking a risk. But I feel like it follows on so nicely from the last reading that I did, and it is the card of the recent past. Plus, I mean, I'm not sure how much I trust that figure there anyway, right? It screeches deception to me, and it feels like maybe that's what's come to light for you. That's what you've seen over the month of August. Just throw my coffee out of the way. And it's clarified by the King of Cups, the Six of Cups, and the Chariot. Now, this is quite an interesting combination. The King of Cups is strictly Scorpio. It can indicate Pisces and Cancer as well, but it can also just talk about feelings of love, right? Either how you felt about somebody else or how somebody else felt about you. King of Cups has been coming up a lot, actually, for the readings that I've done in the last couple of days. And the pretty long-standing feelings. This feels like a past situation, and it feels like a past situation that you have revisited. And this is where the stuff has come to light, right? We've got this Six of Cups, which is my card of the past, right? It came out in the reverse. And this way around, it talks about nostalgia. Now, I don't know if you know, the original definition of nostalgia was a yearning for the past that was so deep-seated, it actually caused nausea in a person, right? We often think about nostalgia now just in terms of kind of like sepia photos and kind of wishing for an easier time, you know, when things weren't quite so complicated as they are in our modern society, that sort of thing. But what I see here is something slightly different. It feels like you've got on top of your emotions about a particular circumstance or a particular situation or a particular person, and the scales fell from your eyes. Like, whatever mitigations you made for this person or this situation, whatever way in which you sought to lessen perhaps the malice that was coming from them, that's gone. Like, you see them for who they are now, rather than some sort of nostalgic view of the past, right? And it feels like you've really got on top of your emotions as a result. Now, I really do feel like it's some sort of deceptive practice that's come to light here that we're talking about. But I pulled another card and we ended up with the Chariot. Now, this is really important, right? I'm seeing the Chariot more often than not come to speak to me about shadow work conceptually, right? Because what we've got is, we've got a card that speaks of duality, right? We've got the Black Sphinx and the White Sphinx. We've got good and bad, you know, positive and negative, night and day, or the shadow and the conscious, right? So for me, this card speaks about shadow work, because what you have in the middle by way of the Charioteer is a point of integration between the two, right? Neither of these are going to move on their own, right? They require the Charioteer's input, but there are no reins here. He's controlling them purely with the power of his own mind, and he has to hold them in alignment in order that he might move forward to victory, hopefully, right? So here it feels like you've done a bit of a confrontation of your shadow, right? And in your shadow is perhaps, unusually for a Sagittarius, this kind of inputting of good intent that, or not necessarily good intent, but a lack of bad intent, right? You've made excuses for someone, or you've tried to see someone or a situation in a good light, and that's gone now, right? And it feels like there was that urge to do that has been in your shadow at some point, right? That I actually just said in the Virgo reading, which is the one that I've just done, and it's interesting because the Hermit cards come out in here. So if you're dealing with a Virgo, maybe go and watch that. I've completely forgotten what I was talking about. Shit. Completely lost my train of thought there. No, it's gone. So, I'm sure I'll remember when I finished recording the video. There's been quite a lot going on with you over the month of August, right? Whether you've consciously acknowledged it or not, there's been a bit of work going on, rumbling along underneath, and the revealing of some sort of deception that stopped you from mitigating another person or another situation's intent, or ascribing some sort of malicious or vindictive intent to someone else, right? That's kind of fallen by the wayside because you see that that is what is going on here. But you've done some really powerful work in aligning yourself with your own values, with your own sense of morality, with your own understanding of the situation. And it's put you in a good place, I think. Because what you've got then in your current energy is the High Priestess and the King of Cups again. Right? Again, could possibly be Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. You might have Cancer, Pisces or Scorpio really strongly in your chart. But it doesn't have to be, because this can be an energetic depiction of the level of emotional mastery that you have managed to engender in yourself by way of dealing with this here. Right? Oh, that's what I was saying. We put our gold in the shadow as well as the things that we don't like, right? And sometimes when we relentlessly look for the good in people all of the time without acknowledging, the negative or the, not so nice stuff in other people, it's quite often pointing us towards something in ourselves. Why do we need to do that? Why are we not objective? Why do we ceaselessly kind of look for this thing here? But either way, there's some emotional maturity that you have not only achieved in the recent past, but you are now still rocking in your current energy. And it's combined with this High Priestess energy, more water sign, because it's Pisces. And it's intuition. There's something written on a ribbon that's around her, wrist, and I can't quite read it. Maybe something. But I am obliged to... Oh, I'd love to know what is actually written on that. It's actually slightly obscured by the High Priestess words at the bottom there. But there's something written on a ribbon that's around her wrist. I may go and see if I can look it up after this reading. I might call the video something to do with that. But... you're getting in touch with your intuition in a way that is stronger than it was prior to whatever it was that you discovered and the revelations that you had about yourself and about this other person, right? Because it caused you to do a bit of work on yourself, right? And that's really strong. This is a really strong presentation here. Fuck. But the two clarifiers that I pulled are the Seven of Pentacles and the Four of Swords. And this is quite interesting because the Seven of Pentacles talks to me of a dissatisfaction with your current circumstances, right? It's a card of being very present and kind of looking at everything that's in your life and working out what you want to keep in there and what you want to get rid of, what you want to invest more into and what you want to kind of divest your energy from, right? Plugging up energetic leaks, certainly. But when we see this card, it means that there's something in your life that you're not comfortable with. It's there. And sometimes you may not know exactly what that thing is, right? It's just a feeling that you've got. And we combine it with this Four of Swords. And the Four of Swords is a very detached kind of energy, right? It's about taking a break in order to rest and recuperate from things. And it seems to me like I don't feel like you've necessarily reacted too strongly to whatever it was here externally, right? You kind of turned all of that energy inward and you did something useful for it, useful with it. And now you're just kind of sitting on it at the moment. Now you're detached from it. There's not a great deal of emotion towards this old situation, this difficulty. But there is something rumbling along underneath that is bothering you at the moment. I'm just not even sure that you've entirely worked out what it is. Perhaps the deception of the situation, perhaps the shoddy behaviour from someone else has actually upset you. Perhaps you have isolated that this is the thing that has bothered you, but you see now, because you have the emotional maturity, you have this link to your higher self that is getting stronger every day, that actually the best course of action is no action. That's what it is. That's what it feels like at the moment. I mean, the High Priestess is passive. The Four of Swords is passive. In fact, the King of Cups is also passive, and to a degree, so is the Seven of Pentacles, because this is a precursor to an action. It's not an action in and of itself. It's looking at. It's trying to make a decision about, but it's doing it from a slightly detached standpoint, right? Certainly for some of you, you're actually diverting your energy elsewhere. Now, this may or may not be with a partner, but we've got a Queen of Cups on the table now, here. Now, if this is a partner, a new partner, then we've got you diverting your energy from worrying about this, right, or acting in some sort of regard about this. You're just not doing that. You're diverting your energy into working with this Queen of Cups here. That's possible. But it's also possible that the Queen of Cups indicates somebody who is giving you emotional support while you undergo this thing, right? Somebody who is working with you, perhaps behind the scenes. And this could easily be a mother. It could be your mother who's helping you with this, or it could be, a friend, work colleague, other members of the family, or it could be somebody who you are now partnered with, possibly. But where your needs were not met before, with the Five of Pentacles, we've got a partnership here as well with the Two of Cups. And underneath that, we've got the Five of Wands and the Eight of Cups. Like, you have moved away from conflict. You're not actually interested in the conflict here. And this is why you've not gone back to this situation and gone, right, fuck you, I see what you're doing, I see what you've done, and I'm not going to make those allowances for you anymore. You're just not reacting on the face of it, but you've logged everything. You're just not interested in bringing any kind of discord into your life anymore. And it seems like you've worked really, really hard on your peace, right? And meeting your own needs in a way that they were not met before. And this other person is helping you do that. You do feel like it's someone external to you. Now, what we've got coming towards you for September is the Four of Pentacles. Now, this is interesting because this is a card of needing to release. Right? It's a card of holding on too tightly to things. And what are you holding on too tightly to? Sagittarius. clarifying cards are the King of Swords and the Hermit. So it's quite interesting. Pretty sure that Virgo came out in your reading last month as well. But the King of Swords is the card of Aquarius, and it indicates either an energy or a person who thinks very clearly about things, right? Not only thinks it clearly, expresses himself clearly. Like, we often see this card used to indicate people like doctors or, you know, lawyers, people who are used to kind of setting emotion to one side and using only their intellect to kind of reason their way forwards. You know, we're talking about like logic and that sort of thing, right? But it seems like September asks you to go within with the Hermit card, right? And we're in Virgo season now, so everybody's kind of got this slightly analytical energy about them at the moment. Kind of go within and work out what it is that you are holding on to, because you are holding on to something, whether you realize it or not, right? And it feels like the work that you did over here on this side of the spread was kind of setting you up to be able to identify what it is that you're holding on to, because you've gone that bit deeper, right? You understand yourself a little bit more, you've cleared out some baggage, and that's all good. But this work never stops, right? It just gets more refined, it gets more nuanced as you progress, and it seems like you've kind of cleared enough of a way now that you'll be able to see what this is. Now, either this is how you feel about a Virgo specifically, that's possible, or asking you to go within, right, and see what it is that you are struggling with here, right? What you are struggling to let go of. Let's have a look at that a little bit more deeply. Tell me about the King of Swords and the Hermit. Four of Pentacles. What is Sagittarius needing to release? Whoa, shit. Cards flying out all over here. Right. Okay, so we've got a defensive guarded energy at the bottom of the deck with the Seven of Wands here, right? There's something about this situation, potentially this person, that makes you raise your guard straight away. And to be honest, with the deception that we've seen previously, that's not a dim thing to do. That's a very smart thing to do. And underneath that, we've got the Ace of Swords, right? You see the truth of the situation now. You see the truth of the matter. And it is right and proper that you keep your guard up when you're dealing with this person, right? But what's come out here, what I asked what it was that you needed to have a look at, what you needed to resolve and let go of. What we've got is the Six of Cups, the Ten of Cups, and the Moon. Now, the Six of Cups for me is the past, right? We've already had it come out once. And there is some nostalgia associated with this card, but actually what my eye is drawn to more than anything else on this particular depiction of the card is this archway that's in the background, because in grey, just pencil outlined, we do seem to have what appear to be soldiers walking through this arch. You can see that there. You've got the children in the foreground. I've not been looking at those at all. I'm just looking at that archway with the soldiers coming through. And when we see soldiers, what we think of is conflict, right? And then we've got the Ten of Cups, which is this emotional fulfillment. You know, it's the family card. And so what you have here is past emotional fulfillment or past family stuff, right? But because I'm staring at these soldiers in here, I'm wondering if maybe what you are holding on too tight to is that past conflict. Although you're not reacting in the current moment, right? Because you don't want the conflict. Because you feel like it's the more mature thing to just kind of observe, miss nothing, but don't react. Or whether this is causing you to fixate on the conflict, maybe this is quite a bit deeper. And actually what you are being asked to let go of, what you are being asked to examine internally, is why you are so averse to conflict in the first place, right? Nobody likes conflict, but handled in a mature way, it can actually resolve a lot of things. And this feels like your aversion to conflict goes back to your childhood, right? Now, we've got complete emotional fulfillment and family stuff here, but what we've got behind it is this here, right? It's kind of masking it. Now, is there something in your family situation, Sagittarius, that caused you, right, to avoid conflict, which then by definition caused you to avoid proper resolution of circumstances and situations? Because you've got the moon here, and whenever the moon appears, it asks you to go deep diving and look at things, right? Now, it came up for you last month, and I said it was about new things coming to light, and I stand by that, right? That is a definition of this card, but it's also the subconscious and the non-conscious, right? It's because it's things that are hidden from you at the moment. I think that you are being asked to release a very deep-seated fear of conflict that you have, because it's quite possible that in some ways that has actually hamstrung you, Sagittarius, because you haven't stood up for what you thought was right. You've maybe taken the easy route in the past, right? But the problem with that is that X amount of time down the line, what you found is that you've got a knotted mess in your current situation, that could have been resolved with mature conversation about things. So you want to say, I feel that, like this is a bit shit, and I feel like you having a go at me wasn't really valid there, and I feel like you were just taking out your bad day on me, and that's kind of made me feel some shitty kind of way. Can we have a talk about this? Right? Depending on how able to converse maturely the person you're dealing with is, because that's a big one. If you've got someone who's essentially a bit of a child and will immediately turn everything around to be your fault anyway, you're not going to have any kind of meaningful dialogue with that. But I wonder if, Sagittarius, and the more I talk, the more this feels like it could well be a thing. I wonder if you've always turned away from the conflict and just gone, yeah, right, well, okay, whatever, and then just kind of bounced off, right? Acting like it didn't hurt. Where did that come from? Oh, that's interesting. Acting like it didn't hurt when actually it did. It really fucking hurt, right? Transgression of boundaries. This is what I'm talking about here. Ooh, this is interesting, Saggy. I'm not suggesting that what you need to do is go to war with everyone. That's not at all what I'm saying. But conflict serves a purpose, right? Where you clash with someone, it is possible to sit down and have a dialogue and work things out, right? And it's possible to de-escalate conflict before it gets to the point where you need to sit down and really, thrash something out between you. It's about opening up the conversation. It's about opening the dialogue. It seems to me that you swerved the dialogue because you've always assumed that it's going to end up in conflict, and you have avoided conflict more than anything else that you could possibly think of in your life, because something about it from your childhood makes you feel uncomfortable, so deeply uncomfortable that you would continue doing this the same way as you have done your entire life. Ooh, oh shit, I remembered what I said in the Virgo reading. What I said was, what came out in the Virgo reading was a number of things, including taking responsibility for some kind of, like, I used a better phrase, I can't think what it was, but like warped thinking. There was a certain amount of slightly skewed logic that had gone on, and they were kind of labouring under a misapprehension with things a little bit, and it was time to kind of take stock and make sure that actually the information that they had, that they were using, was correct, and part of that would include necessarily taking responsibility for things that they may have done while they were labouring under this misapprehension, right? And what I said was, you're well overdue a shadow reading, Virgo. I'm going to do this in the next couple of weeks. That's why I was relating it to you, because Sagittarius, this feels exactly the same. Now, the shadow work that you did over here was a precursor to this, because this was kind of just dealing with your surface, more or less surface stuff, right? But we're diving deep here now. You had to clear the way in order to get down there, because something really fucking big is coming up for you here. This is fascinating. Right, if this has resonated with you at all, I'd love it if you would let me know in the comments, or just like the video if you don't want to talk about it, you know, that's cool. But I'm going to go over to Vimeo now, so if you would like to look at a more extended read of this, right, just click on the link below, it's in the description box down there, and that'll take you over to Vimeo. Obviously, if you're a patron on my Patreon, you get all of the extendeds for free anyway, at a certain tier. So if you're a patron, you can just like dash over to Patreon, because it'll be there. And let's have a look at this, Saggy, because this is deep for you. This is really deep. And with really deep shadow work, there's always a reward at the end, right? Your fucking sense of peace, the thing that you're looking for more than anything. Yeah, it's in here. So, ooh, I'm actually kind of excited for you, Saggy. September's going to be a bit like, but by the time you get into October, you're going to be feeling better on a level maybe that you haven't experienced before. Right, that's enough wittering from me. I love you all very much, and I'll see you soon.